In the name of God, Creator, Pain-bearer, and Spirit of life. Today we begin the Church's season of Advent. Now, this is New Year's Day for the Church around the world. So, Happy New Year, I can say to you. Whilst many people will not be aware of the fact, one thing most are aware of is that we are travelling with the usual haste toward the end of this calendar year of 2022, with 2023 looming large as it hurtles towards us. I don't know about you, but I pose the question to myself, what will this new year of 2023 bring? Will it be a so-called good year, an improvement on the past one? I would hope it might. Will life just go on steadily the same? Or will it bring disaster? Another annus horribilis, as the late Queen so aptly put it a few years ago. It's a question that no one can answer. I doubt the so-called crystal ball prophecies. I doubt them. That's my take on that. I don't know that we can tell accurately with any degree of certainty what the future will hold for us. It's more a question, I think, of wait and see. What else can you do? One always hopes for improvement. We certainly all look for something better. Obviously, we never hope for bad things to enter our lives. We are, in this respect, all optimists. As we contemplate 2023 in our minds, our glass is always half full. It's never half empty. That's why at New Year we always offer the greeting, Happy New Year. We're full of hope. We lit the candle of hope this morning in our Advent wreath. We're full of hope, aren't we? Always. On New Year's Eve, you look ahead into the new year and you think, I'm hopeful that things will be better. So what is it that we hope for as we approach the season of the new calendar, the new diary, which is probably filling up already, if it's anything like mine? All those blank pages waiting to be filled with our best hopes and our best dreams. So, I'll pose a rhetorical question. What are your hopes for the new year? Now, I hope for peace, an end to the terrible war in Ukraine, a continuing reduction in the tension around the relationship between our country and China, a reduction in the cases of COVID in our community. They're the sorts of things I hope for. Obviously, there are personal hopes as well, things like reasonable health, happy relationships, and that my prayers for some new people to join our small community here at St. John's might be answered. That's a hope that I obviously will share with everyone in the church this morning. I truly believe that we all need to join together to pray for that to happen. So out of that we can see two basic things that we need in our lives: peace and hope. Maybe this should be put the other way around. I thought logically, hope and peace. Because hope finds its reality in prayer, and it is through prayer that we find the reality of peace. And what do I mean by prayer? I don't necessarily envisage words. Of course, words are sometimes necessary. As St. Francis of Assisi is reputed to have said so long ago, He said, preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words. He went on to say, we work hard not to fall into a shallow faith that keeps us from speaking truth in favour of only works. Implicit in this saying is the understanding that often the most powerful sermons are unspoken. Francis speaks about works, in other words, our actions, what we do, how we act in our daily lives. Are we charitable, peaceful, or are we constantly critical, judgmental, finding only fault in others? Now, let's not forget that so-called works are vital to our Christian lives. But Francis is saying, that's fine, but don't forget our language as well. In other words, like everything else in life, there needs to be a balance. What is in our heart is discerned by both our words and our actions. Now, the gospel, this new church year, we leave the Gospel of Luke behind and we turn again to Matthew. The name Matthew means gift of God and summarises the Gospel's teaching. This Gospel is considered to be a rewriting of the earlier Gospel of Mark and probably has its origins sometime after 75, the year of 75 in the 1st century CE, in the Common Era. Probably in the early 80s, due to its antagonism toward the synagogue. It's Jewish, like all of these writings are Jewish. It also refers to the destruction of Jerusalem back in 70, when the Romans destroyed that city and the temple. It's surmised from quotes found in other documents of the time that it originated in Antioch in Syria. And this gospel was aimed largely at a Jewish audience. New Zealand-born Professor Warren Carter writes concerning this Gospel of Matthew. Followers of Jesus do not live in the context of perpetual persecution, but there is always pressure and risk. They must not render to Caesar the things that are God's, nor are they to imitate the domineering practices of the Gentile rulers. Instead, he writes, Christians are to be an active and faithful alternative community of loving, merciful, inclusive, praying, missional servants, anticipating the completion of God's purposes. That's Warren Carter, Professor Warren Carter. Placed in the context of the time back then, today's reading has Jesus announcing the end of the sinful world ruled by Rome and the establishment of God's empire at Jesus' return, which in that 1st century of the Common Era was desperately hoped to be imminent. The thing we can take from all this is to live our lives as Christ would have us do. That is, in peace, in prayer, and in love towards all. May the Lord be with you as we go through this season of Advent and approach the magnificent season of Christmas. Amen.